What's up, everybody? I hope that you are well, wherever it is that you are finding us on this fine day, evening, morning, whenever you're tuning in. We're glad you're tuning in. We appreciate you being here on InsideCarolina.com's Coast to Coast podcast. This is the podcast where we hit up all of the Carolina basketball goodness that you can think of, whether that be recruiting, whether that be the current squad, what's happening with the hardwood and the Tar Heels, ultimately is what we aim to bring to you, our listeners and viewers, and the Inside Carolina Nation. I want to give a big shout out to Johnny T-Shirt for sponsoring the show, and we appreciate them being along. We'll give them some love a little bit later, but we're glad you're here. And as we record this, guys are back on campus. Students are back in Chapel Hill. We have no idea how long COVID's going to allow that to happen, but we're rolling. And you know what? Even if they weren't, we'd still be doing this show because there is no off season. Wearing my new Inside Carolina T-shirt that was available in honor of IC's 20th birthday. You could have gotten one of those. I hope you guys scooped one of those up on the message boards a couple of weeks ago, but it came in. It's very soft, lovely. I find myself getting all comfy and cozy while I wear it, but that's another conversation for another day. As usual, the two guys that you're here to hear or here to see or here to gain knowledge from are with me. Sean Moran, Sherelle McMillan. Sean, how are you?
Doing well.
Sherelle, how you living?
I'm good. I hope to have a better day on this job than I did my day job. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, look, I'm going to make it as easy as possible for you. What you do with that is up to you, sir.
There you go.
And getting us rolling, why don't I start with something that actually just wrapped up on UNC's campus recently as we record this on Monday night, Cam Whitmore's visit. And he is a very highly touted prospect in this class. Is obviously I would say, and again, I'm not the analyst, you guys are, but he feels like the top remaining recruit for Hubert Davis and the Tar Heels. So Sherelle, why don't you tell us how that visit went down, what you can glean from it, if you have any kind of expectations as to what may have happened during that visit under the new staff.
Yeah, so he is actually at the airport. We're recording this Monday night. So he just left. So the visit really just concluded within the last, I would say hour and a half. And, obviously what you're going to get from it is, oh, the visit was great. Everything was well. I think North Carolina's charge in this recruitment was showing how Whitmore fit in, considering all the wings that they already have on the roster or guys who can kind of play that 3 and 4 position. So I think that was one. And then just kind of showcasing Hubert Davis's vision for the program, because even though for us, it feels like it's been an eternity since April 5th, it's only been a few months. And so people on the outside who aren't in the UNC bubble haven't had a chance to really hear Hubert Davis's vision. I mean, frankly, we haven't in totality either. We've gotten bits and pieces here and there. But I think that was one of the things that North Carolina hoped to accomplish. And then just kind of show off, the strength and conditioning program. We talked to Cam's dad, Myron, kind of before the visit. And he just had a list of things that he wanted to kind of find out about UNC playing style, strength and conditioning, academic programs, how soon he can play, if what the criteria is for playing early, all that kind of stuff. So I really think it was a fact-finding mission for the family. And hopefully we'll know more in the next couple of days after we get a chance to talk to them.
I, for one, was shocked in reading your preview on Inside Carolina's premium message boards, your preview of this visit after speaking with Whitmore's dad. I was shocked to hear him mention specifically strength and conditioning, because it's just not something I feel like you see a lot from blue chip high school recruits. I mean, obviously it's part of their regimen and it's part of the overall process that they're shopping for. But I think that might be the first recent blue chipper that I've seen mention strength and conditioning. Do you feel like it's just a big deal for Whitmore, or do you feel like it's something or something that he feels like he needs to expand his game to make him the ultimate NBA prospect? Where do you think that comes from?
If he needs improvement in strength and conditioning, then we're all doing life wrong, because the dude is already chiseled and, already super athletic.
So maybe he's just a workout beast, like Hansborough was.
Right. And maybe he just wants to make sure that he's going to maintain, and that he's going to, not slip in any, not slip as far as his muscle mass, not slip as far as his lateral quickness, all that good stuff. So it could be that. Frankly, I don't know. I can't remember the last time actually someone mentioned strength and conditioning as something they were really looking at. So that's a good question.
I wake up every day and worry about how can I maintain my muscle mass. Sean, if a guy like Cam Whitmore were to join this or what would be this roster when he would matriculate, what would it mean for Hubert Davis's roster, and what would it mean for the team style of play?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he would fit right in with kind of that up tempo style that we've seen for years and years. I think he'd also fit in with Trimble in terms of that athletic kind of freak level, probably even surpassing that. So you would have, really your point guard, and then kind of your wing undersized four. That when you step out on the court, they're going to be the best athletes, or at least up in the upper tier, which I think has been definitely missing in some of the positions lately. And then once again with Jalen Washington and Shaver, I know we've talked about this ad nauseum in terms of Washington 5-4-4-5, but this gives a guy who can switch and be, he'll be the one creating the mismatches offensively, defensively on the court. So I think you said it, that he's really the top, target. That's definitely accurate, and would give UNC kind of a dose of athleticism that it will continue to be looking for. I think the only question goes back to Hubert Davis's first interview with ESPN of asking, can he shoot? Can he shoot? And I think that's the main question for Whitmore going forward. He's shown he can do it, but then at Peach Jam, he definitely struggled with his outside shooting. So I think that's still the area of improvement. And once again, that's a big area because you don't want to have defenders playing off of you. But in terms of just what he'll bring to Chapel Hill, that fast pace, up tempo, and being able to switch on both sides of the ball.
Terrell, how you feel about Cam Whitmore and how he may or may not fit within the North Carolina roster?
So before I get to that, just Sean mentioning that interview on ESPN, I was sitting here thinking like, man, that was a couple of years ago. That was a really good interview he did when he first became the head coach, and
April.
he's had a couple of good years as the coach since then, and made the NCAA like, oh, that was 4.5, 5 months ago. it really does feel like such a long time. But yeah, so as far as fit, we talked about how Jalen Washington and Will Shaver, the bigs are developing as rebounders, and so when you have two bigs who are developing as rebounders, you've got to supplement. And I think North Carolina is still going to have that emphasis on rebounding. So when you have someone like Cam Whitmore, as athletic as he is, as strong as he is, coming off the wing, who can help rebounding, that's a big thing for UNC. And that's a huge fit. I think Dontrez Styles kind of is in that same vein that, I could see a situation where if they're both on the roster where maybe they are the leading rebounders as opposed to the bigs, just because of how they play and their size and all that good stuff. So I think Whitmore could definitely help in that aspect too. Just immediately, if he can't shoot, can't do anything else, he can rebound and he can defend. We know that, and dunk. So, I mean, that's someone who is really valuable on a roster, no matter their shot or not. Now, ultimately, if he wants to play big minutes, he's going to have to prove that he is a competent shooter at the ACC level, to Sean's point. So, I guess we can see what happens. But I think that's important to mention too, just about his fit as a rebounder.
If nothing else, UNC has shown in the past that you don't have to be a 5 or a 4 to get a lot of rebounds in UNC's system. I mean, a lot of it has to do with pace, but also, when you've emphasized things the way that Roy Williams did in the past, and the way we think that Hubert Davis is going to, when you emphasize rebounding the way they do, it's another way to earn playing time. All right, so this leads us to the other recruit who is kind of on UNC's board right now still, in Tyler Nickel. Sherelle, do you feel like Whitmore and Nickel are an either-or situation, or am I totally counting chickens before they hatch here?
It seems like that. If you look at how North Carolina set up visits in June, it seemed that they had the guys who they were out in front for, visiting first, and kind of gave them the right of first refusal. That seems to be the case with Whitmore. We haven't been able to confirm that, but if you're just reading tea leaves, definitely I would say that's the case, because right now Whitmore visited UNC. He'll be at Illinois this weekend. Then he's scheduled to be at Miami the weekend after that. Those are the only 3 he has scheduled. He took one to Maryland back in June. Trips to UCLA and Louisville, so we'll see what happens there. And then Villanova is still there, kind of, vying for an official visit, and Maryland could get an official visit too. So he really, outside of the 3, he has 4 schools, I would say: Maryland, Villanova, UCLA, and Louisville, kind of vying for 2 official visit slots. Now, he could also take unofficial visits to those schools. So He still has a ton of options. And I think Nickel is more getting towards the end of the process. He's got Butler and LSU and UNC. I did this last time too. I forgot his 5. Virginia Tech. And then
Because it's such a hodgepodge.
it
dude.
is a
It's just
hodgepodge. Butler, Virginia Tech, LSU, Carolina. Who am
the
I
Seattle
forgetting?
Seahawks, Atlanta
But
United. Yeah, there's a lot of just
right,
great teams.
right. But he's getting towards the end too. He'll be in at UNC. He's scheduled to be at UNC on September 10th. I think we'll really see how UNC feels about Cam Whitmore on September 13th, because they have a great shot with Tyler Nickel. And if it's an either or situation like we think, they're going to have to figure out what to do if Nickel is kind of ready to go. And, there's somebody's going to have to make a decision. Let's put it that way. Whether it's UNC, whether it's Whitmore, whether it's Nickel, all 3 of those entities are intertwined, I would say.
I believe a Nobel laureate once said, "Poop or remove thyself from the pot," is kind of what we're looking at with those 2 kids. And like you said, I think it will tell a lot when the second week of September comes around, as what's happening with those 2 kids. One more recruit that's on UNC's board that some news popped up over the past week. Now, I want to preface this by saying I have not seen confirmation of this. I think Sherelle said there was a Tipton Edits mention of it. But again, I haven't seen anything online that I could attribute this to. But it sounds like Derek Lively has received a $500,000 offer from Overtime. And Sean, you were really good about mentioning this. I think the last episode we did about just this is what UNC is going to face after you go after these big time kids. And Sherelle, you've hammered it home ad nauseum as well, that if you're going after blue chip kids, this is going to be one of the other things you have to compete with. So Sean, I'll throw to you. Do you feel like Lively's game is more ready for an overtime sports league right now, or is that a little bit of a reach, or would that just be a financial play for the kid and his family?
I don't think it comes as a surprise, because you've seen, at least as of now, Jalen Duran and Imani Bates, who will most likely be at least saying they're going to college.
Most of the top 10 kids, you're right.
Yeah, so that leaves both the G League and Overtime. Overtime Elite has kind of, they've been going a little younger, so kind of 2023, et cetera. But that leaves the G League, looking for talent for next season. So I think it's not a surprise to see them offering, the $500,000 contracts to the top players. And I think for Lively, once again, when he was offered by Roy Williams, he was in the 40s. Now, once again, I think with him, you could easily see him moving up just because of how long he is and his ability to, run up and down the floor, shoot the ball, etc. And then it was that Pangos performance where that bumped him into not just the top 10, but the top 5. Yeah. And that's where he sits currently. I think whether it's, I think either platform is going to be good for him, but I think once again in college, his offensive game still is a work in progress. He can shoot from the side, but oftentimes he is just kind of running up and down. Definitely needs to add a lot of strength so he can get pushed around kind of down in the post. So I could see those weaknesses being shown a little bit more in the college game, where, in the G League, he's just able to pick and pop. But once again, I think it comes down to, does a kid want to go to the G League, or does he want the college experience? With his mom playing at Penn State, I could see the college experience, being attractive to him. Sure. But at the same time, I think we've always thought this one was going to be a reach no matter what, and that you would have, the G League and Overtime Elite suitors out there in a significant way, which we're definitely seeing right now.
Sherelle, how do you feel about a $500,000 offly for Lively? Other than we wish we got it, how do you look at that?
Yeah, that's tough, man. It's tough to turn down that kind of money. Yeah, I know after taxes it's $330 or whatever, but it's still a lot of money for someone who's 18, and it can be a nest egg for like the rest of their life.
Yeah.
If they spend it correctly. And the thing is, even if he goes to the G League, it's not gonna or Overtime, it's not like it's going to ruin his draft stock at all. Right. I mean, he's still going to be a first round draft pick regardless. So for me, it's kind of like, so I'm still going to maintain my draft status, and I'm going to make, $500,000 gross, why wouldn't I leave? And maybe that is being too money first, or not valuing the college experience. And to Sean's point, his mom works at the school, so maybe she's in there saying, you know what, you'll regret this if you don't at least do it for
Sure.
and have those memories. But from where I sit, that would be very hard to turn down, just because of the fact that his draft status isn't going to change materially. Like, he's still going to be a first round pick.
This might shock some folks, but I'm no longer 18 years old. And I'm going to say this, and I think you could probably get me to stick to this come hell or high water. Put a $500,000 cold in front of me. There's a lot of things I would do for that.
Yeah.
And including play basketball. So I think I do not envy the decision that kid will have to make, but I do envy the rewards that he will potentially reap at the end of each one.
But to this point, there's a kid out from California, Jared McCain, a guard. I think he might actually be 2023 or 2024, but the same source, we can say it, Tipton Edits from on3.com reported that he turned down this kid from McCain from California, a 2-year, $750,000 deal with overtime, because he still has 2 years of eligibility, and he turned it down evidently. So I mean, for some people, the money isn't everything, and they feel like they can compensate in other ways, through image and likeness, or whatever means that may be available to them.
Bojangles.
Bojangles, yeah. But I think each prospect just has to make the decision for themselves and understand that it's not the end of the world whether they go to college or whether they do overtime. The chances of them still being a top pick are pretty high if they're already regarded as one of those top players.
Well, shout out to our guy John at Jimmy's Famous Seafood, because that's a lot of crab cakes. Like 500 large is a lot of delicious crabness. But I want to take a quick break and give a shout out to our sponsor, Johnny T-Shirt. Johnny T-Shirt, as you know, longtime supporters of Inside Carolina content, InsideCarolina.com, and us, the guys that are involved with Inside Carolina. We really appreciate Johnny T-Shirt and what they do for us, and we appreciate what they do for you guys, the listeners, the viewers, the subscribers to Inside Carolina. Right now, East Franklin Street in Chapel Hill. Look, y'all, as we sit today, we are, I think, 11 days from UNC's first football game. I was, under the impression there would be no math, so I'm not going to hold myself to that counting. But either way, it's going to be time to get back in Kenan Stadium very soon. And when you're in Chapel Hill, swing by East Franklin, go to Johnny T, get the newest, the flyest, the hottest gear. How's that for a 1990s word, Sherelle McMillan?
Flyest.
Go in and get what you need from Johnny T. If you don't want to go to the store, if you would rather just get it at home, they got you there too. Hit them up at johnnytshirt.com. All the selection, they've got all the new stuff that's coming in right now for the fall, the new football gear. They'll have new basketball stuff soon, which usually comes 1 or 2 weeks after football starts. Pay attention. It'll be there. Johnny T-Shirt will have it for you. If you're an Inside Carolina premium subscriber, you know that you get that extra 10% by using the code that is found on the premium message board. So make sure you do that. Take care of Johnny T-Shirt. They've been taking care of us for a long time, and we want to make sure we keep that circle going. Hang tight just 1 second. The national guys are going to come in here and drop some ads. We'll be right back with the last part of this episode of the Coast to Coast podcast. All right, thanks for sticking around. I'm your host, Joey Powell, on the Coast to Coast podcast. With me, as always, the two guys who actually bring the thunder, bring the noise, bring the stuff. You know the boys, Sean Moran, Sherelle McMillan. All right, guys, we've talked about the recruiting about as much as we can. It just doesn't seem to be a lot going on aside from the Whitmore visit. What I do want to talk about is something that our man Sherelle did for Inside Carolina, and you saw it on the page last week. He spent some time with Kerwin Walton, and I want to give all praise and all the laudits that you need, Sherelle. But I think that was a really well done two-parter about kind of who Kerwin Walton is as a guy. Really his work ethic and what he's done to make himself not just the last member of UNC's class last year. And I think you did a really good job getting inside that. Rather than rehashing the whole piece, I do want to ask you, give me one thing that surprised you about spending so much time with Kerwin Walton with regard to Kerwin Walton, the basketball player.
I would say I wasn't ready for that question. That was an off the chain lead in, to use a 90s. I would
cheesy.
say, I would say, even though we talked about it in the story, like the dude's work ethic was still surprising
Oh yeah.
because I had heard about it and people had talked about it, and like, yeah, you're in the gym for 8 hours. Yeah, I work 8 hours a day. Sure, exactly.
Right.
I might be in the office, but I'm not working for 8 hours a day. But when we went to the gym with him, he was working the entire day. I mean, the breaks he took were to eat, and then we sat down for about 30, 35 minutes for an interview, and then he left, and that was between 11 o'clock and about 6:20. And when I talked to his dad, he was like, "This was a light day because we've worked really hard the rest of the week." And when you hear that kind of stuff, you're like, "He's exaggerating." But after being there, I'm like, "No, they're not exaggerating. This is what they do," and it really showed me the focus he has. Kind of the reason why it seems like he's stoic sometimes,
Yeah.
and that's because he's repped everything so many times. There's nothing is really going to phase him. So he might bury a three, or he might cross somebody up in a rivalry game, or whatever, and it's going to be the same reaction because to him, he's just doing what he done in the gym, literally thousands and thousands of times. So that, to me, that was the biggest takeaway, was that kind of the rumors and the myths and the tall tales were all true about his work ethic. Other than that, they were great with access. I hung out with the family. I didn't have to Uber. They picked me up and we drove, and they fed me, and which is not an easy thing to do. So it was just really cool to be in that environment and see him away from like media people and away from his teammates, when he's just really, really, really loose. And everybody had a story about, I tell you the time about when Kerwin hit 6 straight threes, or I tell you the time when Kerwin scored 27 straight points. And I'm like, man, did the national media, us included, just underrate him?
Just
Because
miss on him. Yeah.
yeah, just miss. And maybe he's gonna have an okay year, and maybe he'll just be kind of what he is. But it's hard not to bet on him when you see how he works. So that was my takeaway. Is like, yeah, I think he's gonna get better. Maybe he doesn't, but you just see all the work he puts in. It's like, man, he's gonna get better. He's gonna improve. He's gonna be really, really good.
I could definitely take away from the two-parter that you wrote that there's a lot of Bill Brasky in discussing Kerwin Walton. That's an old SNL check if you guys want to look that one up. But I was also really impressed with just the video clips of his handle now. And if he's got ability now to create his own shot, in addition to what he had last year and being able to get the shot off with guys in his face. Sean, what do you think that means for his game? If he's got that ability now to give a guy a little shimmy, or be able to cross the guy up, or even double cross him, what do you feel like that adds to his game, and how much more of a threat does that make him as a shooter?
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely improves, significantly improves what he can bring on the offensive end versus him almost being reliant on, kind of defense collapsing or kind of pick and pop type scenarios. Obviously, last year there was a few where he get people with the head fake or even just kind of the crossover and sidestep. But if he's able to kind of add that extra dimension, I mean, once again, I think he shot the lights out, and if he can continue shooting at a strong clip, but now he's less reliant on kind of everybody else to get him the ball, and if teams are good, they're going to be extremely aggressive in terms of not letting him catch or not helping off of him. So if he's just able to add just a little bit off the dribble, I think that will make his life a whole lot easier, and I think again will free him up for some opportunities that just weren't there last year.
That was a major point of emphasis too in their workouts. You saw the dribbling drill. What I didn't really get good video of was the pick and roll drill. Basically, Kerwin Walton is the ball handler, and he had a big man who's going to Grambling State down in Louisiana, who was his big, and they just repped all kinds of different sets off of pick and roll over and over. So whether it be the big pop in, or Kerwin flaring, like anything you can think of that you can rep off of a pick and roll, they did over and over. So it's definitely a point of emphasis for him. And I think Hubert Davis has made it a point of emphasis for him as well. So we'll see. It looked better, to Joey's point, because he's always working at it. So we'll see. And he told, I'm not going to say what his goal is to shoot from three this year, because I just don't see any way it's possible. But he has a very high goal that he wants to shoot from three, and it's much higher than it was this year. And if he does it, how about this? If he does it in April, I'll reveal it on the podcast. But it
50%.
is a lofty goal. Let's put it that very
All
lofty.
right. So John Siegley, our producer extraordinaire, I need you to time check this. We will jump right back at it in April. On August 23rd's episode of the Coast to Coast podcast, Sherelle McMillan has promised us to reveal the secret documents if Kerwin Walton hits his lofty goal. All right. So keeping with that same theme, talking about the current roster, I want to close this show out with a little bit of rapid fire, kind of quick answer, short response type stuff. And I want to kind of couch this question. All right. When we were talking before the show, I kind of told you guys, hey, let's talk about what the current roster individual players need to do for this team to be successful. But I want to kind of make sure that we're throwing this caveat out for our listeners and our viewers. I want to see specifically, what do these players, in y'all's opinion, what do these players need to do for the team to be successful? So not does player X need to shoot better, not does player Y need to rebound more, not does player Z need to move without the ball. What do these guys need to do specifically to raise their game so that it fits within the current makeup of the roster? Because keep in mind, fellas, up until about a month and a half ago, we didn't know what the makeup of this roster was going to be. And now, as we sit late August, guys have reported to school. We know who this roster is going to be. So I'm going to go through this. I'm going to hit each one of you guys with a player. We're not going to do each of you on each player. I'm going to hit each of you with a player. I want you to give me a short answer, what you think that player needs to do best within the confines of this team, or within the constructs of this team, to get the most success for the squad this year. All right, cool. Speak now, forever hold your peace. All right, we're good. You guys are along for the ride. You've committed to it now. Sean, Anthony Harris.
Wasn't expecting that one to go first. I mean, for him, what does he need to do? I mean, he needs to, one, show leadership. He's been there for 3 years. But I think also needs to be able to showcase what he's been working on over the summer and show his we've always talked about him being kind of a junkyard dog. And I think he needs to have that rub off on the other teammates.
That personality would be nice to see going around the locker room. All right, Sherelle, Leaky Black.
My God. He needs to be able to shut down opposing threes as much as possible. And then just, again, be competent. He doesn't have to be above average. Be competent as a shooter, whether that's 32% from three or 33% from three. If he can just give him that and that, defensive prowess, I think that he'll be good.
Sean, RJ Davis.
I think he's going to have to. We were very high on him throughout the summer last year going into the season. And I think hopefully last year got him some reps and got him more confident. But I think he's going to have to showcase now through the practices that he can be that guy we all saw in AAU. So he can shoot the ball. He can kind of be that secondary ball handler, but also that I think that his vision has increased and he can involve his other teammates as well.
And you guys know where my heart lies on this, but I love the amount of dog that is on this roster right now. Sherelle, Dontrez Styles.
Be great in practice, push the other wings, and then whenever you get your minutes, be a net neutral. Don't be a net negative when you get minutes.
Just don't hurt them.
Right.
Yeah, I got you. Sean, Caleb Love. I'm just going to throw all the Sean. I'm going to throw all the 1 and 2 guards at you.
I mean, there's a lot, right? A tremendous amount riding on Caleb Love for this season, and we've all seen, the summer videos of him working on his shot and working out, and people talking about how well he's been doing. But now is the time to kind of cement his role as a potential leader on the team. And once again, hopefully all that stuff he's been working on can carry over. But now's the time to understand, how has Armando improved? How has Dawson Garcia, where does he like the ball? Same with Brady Manick. And he really needs to gel with the rest of the team, especially if they're looking at him being kind of taking not even just the freshman to sophomore year jump, but almost doubling that and becoming, basically what people were expecting last year. So it's really integrating himself in with the new players and kind of showcasing how that everything he's worked on over the summer can now translate into significantly improved statistics.
Sherelle Armando Becot.
Be the guy. Along with Caleb Love, this is your team. So you came back for a reason. You want to showcase your skills. So be the guy. Average 16, 15, 17 points a game. Be an All-American. Be an All-ACC player. It's your team. You're the guy. Your experience. You played the most. You're the most consistent. So just kind of take the leadership from previous Carolina bigs and move it forward.
I'm officially nicknaming him the Big Crab Cake. Just so you guys know, that's right now on this episode, we're nicknaming him #Big Crab Cake. Shout out to Jimmy's Famous. Sean, DeMarco Dunn.
I think he has an opportunity where there's not a lot of expectations coming in for a freshman that really hadn't gotten that in-person Carolina experience until this summer. So I think similar to what Sherelle said for Dontrez Styles, shooting is his main strength, and if he can come in and knock down some shots in the pickup games, I think he can start carving out some potential minutes off the bench for him come the fall. I think there's only nothing but upside in terms of what he can bring to the team this year, just given expectations. But I think he's got the size and length, and I think he has the opportunity to maybe earn some more minutes that aren't expected as of right now.
Yeah, I like that. I would almost agree with everything you said. I would also add in what Sherelle said earlier too about when you get those minutes, just don't hurt them. Just be a net neutral, but not a net negative. Sherelle, Puff Johnson.
Come in, make open shots when you have the chance, stay healthy above all else. And on defense, use the length that you have to harass smaller threes, because I think people forget just how tall and how long Puff is, because he didn't play a ton last year. He's a guy I think really could, if he plays well, could be one of those surprises for UNC, because he's really talented and he has ability. So yeah, make shots, play good defense, and stay healthy.
Yeah, 6'8". I totally, like you said, I didn't see him much last year, and I forget the kid is a 6'8". Like that's massive wingspan. Sean, somebody you're infinitely familiar with right now because of a side project you're doing, Dawson Garcia.
Sure. So hopefully this week or next week we'll have kind of a scouting video on him, and I think it's been helpful for me, because you watch the highlights and you see Dawson, and you're like, man, this guy is just 6'11", can shoot, can do all this on offense, but then just kind of watching the full games. And so I'm going to go on a little bit more of a tangent than the quick responses for him. But I think oftentimes in the Marquette games outside of the UNC game, a lot of time he was just running from baseline to the 3-point line and wasn't very active. A part of that was the Marquette roster and style of play, but another part was him being a 6'11", kind of shooting 5, where he was dependent on the pop. He was dependent on kind of the open shots. So I want to see, can he, once again, stretching the floor is going to be big for Carolina, but can he also create kind of a post presence in these next 2 months? Because I think outside of Armando, there's going to be opportunities for Dawson, especially if teams are just going to switch on defense, where that's going to negate any advantage he has out on the perimeter. So if teams are just going to switch, he needs to be able to post up strong, and he's going to need to be able to kind of have that second post presence outside of Armando.
Awesome. Sherelle, Justin McCoy.
Be great at defense, kind of be the guy, be the glue. Every great team, and sometimes it's used as a pejorative, but every great team needs a glue guy, and I think he can be that. And then same thing, knock down shots, because he's going to play some 4. So if you're open, knock him down at a competent rate, grab boards, and play great defense that you learned at UVA. Bring it down to UNC.
All right, going to skip Kerwin Walton because we already did him, which leaves the last, who I assume rotation guy, and no disrespect to Creighton Lebo, Dewey Ferris, or Ryan McAdoo, but last guy, Brady Manick. Sean.
Another guy that is just trying, he's been in Chapel Hill throughout the summer, but now once again, after 4 years of Oklahoma, just trying to integrate himself into a new culture, a new team, a new coaching staff, and new players. So probably felt very comfortable, with what he did at Oklahoma. And now it's almost trying to return to his junior year success in maybe more of a minimized role in terms of shot opportunities, just given kind of the talent that exists. So once again, it's getting familiar with a whole new coaching staff as well as new players, and making sure everybody knows his strengths and where he likes the ball, and also kind of once again bringing that stretch five ability to UNC.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys humoring me for that rundown. I think it'll be good for our listeners to kind of reset, again, who's on the roster. Because again, it's the first time we've talked about them as a collective now that we know who's here and who's going to be a part of the team. Boys, is there anything else you want to add? Sean, you got two pennies before we wrap tonight?
No, I'm just looking forward as August creeps into September. I think it's exciting to have Cam Whitmore on campus. It wasn't a football game, but I think, once again, from the June visits now to August, where students are in session, of just kind of getting back to what we had in 2019, and obviously before that, and hopefully that can continue. And then, I guess the other thing, once again, Dawson Garcia, hopefully we'll have kind of a video report coming out on him. And I mean, there's a lot to like, but then once again, there are some improvement points, and how does he still have, how does he continue to get better? But is he going to be playing 30 minutes and getting as many shots as he did last year? It might be tough, but I think we can definitely see how he helps out the squad this season.
Sherrill, anything you want to add before we put a bow on this?
I'm good. Sean said it all.
Well, that's nice, neat, and cleanly wrapped for us to put in your to-go container as you head out of the restaurant this evening. We hope that you've enjoyed the goodness that we have served up for you here on this episode of the Coast to Coast. We appreciate you guys listening. Big fans of Johnny T-Shirt. Appreciate them sponsoring. I hope that you enjoy this. If you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're getting this podcast, be sure to stop, rate, and review us. I gave some shout outs to folks that left us reviews last time. We appreciate them, but we would appreciate a new review if you have never left us one. Really helps us out. And, we're not asking for much. We're putting this content out for you. If you wouldn't mind, just hit us up with a little review rating. Let us know how we're doing. Thanks to John Siegley, our producer extraordinaire. And we definitely will keep our eyes as the team starts getting back together next month for official team organized activities. And we get closer, as Sean said, to September and then into real basketball. So appreciate you guys being here. For Sean Moran and Sherrill McMillan, the guys who actually make this race worth watching, I'm just Joey Powell. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you next time on the Coast to Coast podcast here on InsideCarolina.com. Late.